Hey there! If you didn't know, this video is a part of a series of videos called The Road to Emerald Kaizo. In this series, I attempt a number of Nuzlocke challenges, with each game getting progressively harder than the last until we eventually reach Emerald Kaizo. Right now we're in the middle of our Gym Lock, where we bring over any Pokemon that survived the Elite Four of the last game into the current game. If you want to watch the full series, you can check out the playlist link in the description or click on that little eye thing in the corner. There will be spoilers from the last game in just a few seconds, so click off now if you want to get caught up. Okay, cool. Now, either all the new folks are gone or they don't care about spoilers. Either way, I can talk about who we brought over guilt-free. And those Pokemon are Zetso the Torchic, Valari the Shiny Mareep, who we got in Generation 2, Kuma the Spheal, and Salvador the Lotad. Sweet. Now that all of the introduction stuff is out of the way, we can move on to the actual video. We start our journey by picking Civic the Charmander as our starter, since Infernape is the best fire type in the entire region. Though, to be fair, the competition is pretty slim here in Sinnoh. But now that we have our first Pokemon, we take the next step. Catch a legendary, obviously. Barry drags us to the next door like Verity, where our foolproof plan to catch a legendary Pokemon without Pokeballs is foiled when we find Cyrus spouting soliloquies about how he's gonna own everything before intimidating a child to move out of the way. Spoken like a true capitalist. This encounter here reminds Barry that nothing in life is free and that we actually need to purchase Pokeballs before we can even attempt to catch any Pokemon, let alone a legendary. So we head over to Sand Gym Town to pick up some Pokeballs when Dawn takes us to Professor Rowan and we get given the Pokedex and 5 Pokeballs. And now that we have Pokeballs, the Nuzlocke has officially started. Time to catch some sack fodder. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Our catching spree is interrupted whenever we get to Jubilife and we meet Looker. Now, I've always thought that Looker was just like some private investigator or something, but apparently this motherfucker is a part of Interpol. And it's crazy to me that Interpol even exists in the Pokemon universe, but I guess with freaks like Cyrus running around who want to, spoilers, destroy the world, it kinda makes sense. Anyways, back to more catching. Bonk, bonk, baba bonk. Great, now that we're done bonking, it's time to face Rourke, the first gym leader. We lead the fight with Civic against his lead Geodude. Now that Civic is a Monferno and knows Mach Punch, this fight is an easy win. Civic is able to take down the entire team by spamming Mach Punch and never even drops into the yellow. With Rourke defeated and the ability to use Rock Smash obtained, we can leave Jubilife to the north and go to Floaroma Town. On our way out of town, we find some Galactic Grunts trying rather unsuccessfully to mug Rowan and Dawn for some research notes. Dawn and I easily send them packing, and we learn that they're trying to harness energy for something. With the goons out of the way, we make our way to Floaroma and instantly run into the Bowl Cut boys again. This time, they've taken over Valley Windworks and are covertly siphoning power out of the building into some batteries. However, the door to the building is locked, so we have to go get the key from the other Bowl Cuts. Easy. With the key, we're able to access the Windworks, where we can fight Mars and kick out the Bowl Cut boys. We lead with Mora the Luxio against her lead Zubat. Mora is able to easily OHKO the Zubat, but up next comes her ace Purugly. Now, this Purugly can be a real issue. It's fast, hits like a truck, and has a high base stat total for this early in the game. But we came prepared. We swap into Kiani the Staravia to lower its attack with Intimidate. Then we swap out into Zelinka the Gyarados to lower it further. At this point, the Purugly is nullified. Our Gyarados is way stronger than it is, and the Purugly's attack is lowered by 2, letting us easily take it out. Now that Mars is defeated, her and Sharon get into a bit of an argument and leave the Windworks, where we learn that the Bowl Cut boys are trying to get enough energy to give birth to a new universe. And that's just the kind of crazy talk that starts spewing when you're forced to have a Bowl Cut as part of your uniform. Now that the Bowl Cut boys are out of the way, we head up to Eterna Forest and start to escort Cheryl through. However, as we're nearing the exit, we run into Psychic Elijah, who has nothing but an Abra. Unfortunately for us, this Abra just so happens to have a hidden power that is super effective against Beth the Babarrel, OHKOing her before we even have a chance to react. We take out the Abra without issue after that. But really? Our first death of the run is to an Abra that some random ass trainer has? Hopefully that will be the last death from some rando in this run. After that, we make it to Eterna City, but before we do anything else here, we head straight to the gym to take on Gardenia. We lead with Keza the Golbat, who sweeps Gardenia's entire team with Wing Attack without taking any damage. Good fight, guys. Right after we leave the gym, we run into Barry. Or rather, he runs into us. He drags us to the statue in the middle of Eterna City, where we find Cyrus mumbling to himself. Once again, he then forces a child to move out of the way for him instead of, I don't know, walking around or taking the other stairs? Anyway, we head over to, oh my god, sorry. We run into Cynthia, who gives us the HM for cut and asks us to say hi to Professor Rowan before leaving. Anyways, as I was saying, with the forest badge in hand, we can cut down those very inconvenient shrubs in front of the bowl cut building. We go inside and make our way to the top where we find bowl cut admin Jupiter along with some stolen Pokemon. So like the good Samaritan that we are, we take her on. As a kid, I really remember struggling to beat Jupiter here, so this fight had me a bit worried. As a last case scenario, we take Zabi the Graveler. We'll teach Zabi self-destruct. It's a good Hail Mary option to kill the Skuntank, and the move is very iconic for the Geodude family, so it feels fitting. With the last-ditch Ace card in our pocket, we start the battle. We lead with Kiani, who is able to take down her lead Zubat with a couple quick attacks. However, her Ace Skuntank is scary, so we swap out to Zabi, whose defense is instantly lowered by a Screech. Then we swap out to Zelenka to remove the stat change and get off an Intimidate. The Skuntank goes for another Screech, so we swap back out to the Kiani for a second Intimidate drop. From here, we're confident enough that the Skuntank can't kill with its attack so low, so we go for a wing attack, bringing the Skuntank down to half health and using its berry. However, Kiani is hit by both a Poison Gas and a Night Slash, bringing it close to death. We are forced to swap back out into Zelenka, who finishes the job. After we beat her, Jupiter decides to let us in on the fact that Cyrus is attempting to become the ruler of Sinnoh by using mythical Pokemon, which I'm pretty sure is just outright false. He wants to completely remake the entire universe with him as the ruler, which is a bit of a step up from Sinnoh. So either Jupiter has no fucking idea what Cyrus is really trying to do, or she's lying. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that we need to go to Hearthome City next. On our way there, we happen to run into Cyclist Megan. Now, Cyclist Megan only has one Pokemon, Staravia. However, this Staravia could kill God himself without batting an eye if it so desired. It has the trifecta of Double Team, Endeavor, and Quick Attack. It quickly gets the +3 evasion and a red hit points, meaning that it can two-shot any member of the squad. It gets both Keza and Kiani with Endeavor. We could lose multiple team members here. We go out into Hamburger Helper the Baniri, who is the least valuable member of the squad. Hamburger eats an Endeavor, bringing it one hit away from death. We have one shot to end it here. We click Quick Attack. And like an absolute legend, Hamburger lands the Quick Attack through the +3 evasion, ending the fight and saving the run single-handedly. With Cyclist Megan defeated, we continue to Mount Coronet, where we run into a slightly less powerful villain, Cyrus. Once again, he's talking about some edgy stuff about how the world would be better if humans didn't exist, or whatever. Anyways, we get through Mount Coronet and get to Hearthome City, home of the contest hall, but more importantly, home of Fantina, the 3rd gym leader. We go to the gym, and after stumbling around in the dark for a bit, we make it to Fantina. We lead with Zelenka since it is both specially bulky and it is one of the few members of the party with a Dark-type move. Zelenka uses Substitute on turn 1, letting us safely OHKO her Duskull and her Haunter. When her Ace Mismagius comes out, she uses a Shadow Ball to destroy the Substitute, while we beat it within an inch of its life. While Fantina heals up her Ace, we set up a second Substitute, which is once again destroyed by a Shadow Ball. In return though, we bring it back down to red health. After that, we're able to eat a 3rd Shadow Ball and take out the Mismagius, winning the fight. Up next, we need to head to Veilstone City, where we can fight Maylene for the 4th badge. However, we don't get very far into our journey before we're interrupted by our rival. We lead the fight with Valari, who is making her return from Generation 3. Barry leads with the Staravia that could also fight God with its bare hands, so we are really hoping to OHKO it with the Valari. It sets up a double team on its first turn, and Valari hits it with a Thunder Shock. Unfortunately, this brings it all the way down to exactly 2 hit points. We found ourselves in another run-killing situation. Luckily though, Valari is able to hit through the double team and take out the Staravia. Up next, Barry sends out his Ponyta, and we swap out to Kamui the Floatzel. Kamui OHKOs the Ponyta with an Aqua Jet. Barry brings out his Roselia, and we swap out into Civic to counter. The Roselia sets up a couple of status moves, but it doesn't matter as Civic OHKOs it with the Flame Wheel. All Barry has left is his Prinplup, so we swap out into our own Roselia, named Nexo. Nexo was able to take out the Prinplup with just a couple Mega Drains, ending the fight. Now that we've shown Barry who the better trainer is, we move through Route 209, Solaceon Town, and Route 210 before finally arriving at Veilstone. And pretty much nothing of note happens on the way. After quickly healing at the Pokemon Center, we head to the gym, where we meet Dawn and Crasher Wake, who is the 5th gym leader. Wake leaves after telling us not to underestimate Maylene, and then we head into the gym. We get through the puzzles and the trainers without issue, and before we know it, we're fighting the gym leader. Once again, we lead with Keza, who is now evolved into a Crobat. Keza easily OHKOs Maylene's lead Meditite as well as the Machoke it follows. And just like that, all Maylene has left is her Ace Lucario. We hit the Lucario with a wing attack, but it hits us back way harder with a critical Metal Claw. We can't afford to stay in, so we swap out into Valari, who takes a Metal Claw and paralyzes the Lucario with Static. We hit the Lucario with a Thunder Punch, bringing it down to yellow hit points. However, it hits us with a Force Palm, bringing us down to yellow hit points and paralyzing us. Predicting that Maylene will go for a second Force Palm, we swap into Safi the Haunter. The free swap lets us outspeed and kill the Lucario in the next turn. After we get the badge and leave the gym, we learn that the Bowl Cut boys have stolen Dawn's Pokedex. We team up with her and easily beat the two grunts, getting the Pokedex back. However, whatever they were keeping in the warehouse is gone, having been moved to Pastoria City. Luckily for us, that's where we need to go to next to take on Wake. Once we get to the city, we head to the gym, where we are once again stopped by Barry. He's positively itching for a battle, but his team is the exact same as it was in the last fight. We all know what Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over again, so Barry is easily beaten. Maybe next time I'll try out something new. Wake's gym puzzle isn't too difficult, and we get to him without issue. We lead with Valari against his Gyarados, who hits us with a very powerful waterfall, bringing us to half health and making us flinch. Luckily though, it gets paralyzed from Static, letting us outspeed on the next turn and OHKO with a Thunderbolt. Next up, he sends out his Quagsire, who hard counters Valari. We're forced to swap in the Nexo, who takes a critical Mud Shot, instantly bringing him down to below half health. That's not an issue for us though, since we outspeed an OHKO with the Giga Drain, which also heals us back up to full. All he has left is his Ace Floatzel. Since this Floatzel outspeeds us and has access to Ice Fang, we swap into Kamui to avoid losing Nexo. We both use Crunch against one another, but we take significantly more damage, putting us at risk of dying on the next turn. Now, if you haven't noticed by now, his Floatzel outlevels us. We forgot to level up to the level cap before this fight, putting us at a significant disadvantage. On top of that, his Floatzel is both fast, strong, and has a varied moveset that has a super effective move for almost every member of the party. The other two, Valari and Kamui, are both at low HP already. This Floatzel has a very real chance at sweeping us. Knowing that the Floatzel won't use Ice Fang against a water type, we swap out into Keza, who eats a Crunch. From here, we hit it with a U-turn to deal some chip damage and swap out into Tark to take the Ice Fang. Then we swap back out into Keza, who has to risk taking a critical hit. Luckily, the incoming Crunch does not crit, letting us kill the Floatzel with a Stab Fly. Immediately upon leaving the gym, Barry and Wake join us. Barry says what is, as far as I can recall, one of the craziest lines in any of the games. The Bowl Cut boys have a bomb. They have graduated from just being thieves into full-blown terrorists at this point. We don't even have time to get out of the city before the bomb goes off and the culprit comes running past us. Wake goes into the Great Marsh to survey the damage, and we chase after the Bowl Cut boy, who has a second bomb. We eventually catch up to him just outside of Lake Valor, but he runs off before we're able to catch him. So we begin the chase. Oh, Jesus Christ. That scared the shit out of me. Cynthia appears and asks us to give some medicine to a bunch of Psyduck before she leaves. Anyways, now that the Bowl Cut boys are freely running around with a second bomb they can use whenever they want, I guess we should go help these Psyduck. You know, as we're flying over to Route 10, I'm beginning to question Cynthia. Like, it's her fault that the grunt got away, and why couldn't she have helped these Psyduck? Why is it our job? There's literally no shit! I wasn't talking smack. I promise, Cynthia, I really do. What's that? Deliver a charm to your grandma? Yes, ma'am. Happily, without question, off I go to Celestic Town. Oh, deep breaths. Remember what you learned in therapy. I'm calm now. We get there and instantly find a Bowl Cut grunt who has one of the Bowl Cut bombs, so we beat him in a Pokemon battle to stop him from using it. At no point do we ever seem to take the bomb from him or disable it, so he pretty much gets away scot-free. It seems that we're really bad at stopping terrorists in this game. Anyways, we deliver the charm to Cynthia's grandma and go look at some cave paintings of Yuxi, Mesprit, and Azov with her. Unluckily for us, Cyrus appears and threatens to destroy the painting unless Cynthia's grandma tells him everything she knows about the Lake Trio. Instead, we pick the third option and kick his ass. We lead with Civic against his Sneasel, which we easily OHKO with a Flame Wheel. When his Golbat comes out, we pivot into Valari, who eats an Air Cutter and a Poison Fang. We follow up with a Discharge, which OHKOs it. Then he sends out his Ace Murkrow, who hits Valari with a critical feint attack, nearly killing her. We retaliate with a Thunderbolt, taking it out and ending the fight. Thank God that Murkrow didn't high roll and kill Valari. I would have been extremely sad if we lost her. With Cyrus gone, Cynthia's grandmother gives us Surface thanks to saving the painting and leaves. And now that we have Surf, we can, no, not the piano, not again, I can't do this again. It's okay, I'm stronger than my fear. Cynthia suggests that we go to Canalave City's library to learn more about the legends of Sinnoh. And that's also the home of the 6th gym leader, so that's where we'll head next. As is becoming standard, before we're able to take a crack at the gym, Barry shows up and demands a Pokemon battle from us. As always, we are forced to oblige him. We lead with Valari against a Staraptor. Thankfully, the Staraptor has abandoned its god-killing moveset, making it far less scary now. On the first turn, Valari is able to take it out with a Thunderbolt. Next, Barry sends out his Rapidash, who Valari also takes out with a couple of Thunderbolts. Up next is Barry's newly acquired Heracross. Since Valari is already injured, we swap out to Keza, who eats a Brick Break and takes out the Heracross with a Fly. When Barry then sends out his Ace Empoleon, we swap out with a U-turn, going into Mora, who is now a Luxray. Mora eats a Bubble Beam on the swap-in, and hits Empoleon with a Thunder Fang, nearly killing it thanks to Rivalry. It also paralyzes the Empoleon, skipping its turn and letting us take it out on the next. All Barry has left is his Roserade, which we take out after swapping into Keza and hitting it with Fly. Barry still wasn't a threat, but at least this time he improved his team a bit. Anyways, it's time to take on Brian. We lead the fight with Civic, who outspeeds and OHKOs both his Magneton and his Steelix. When he brings out his Bastiodon, we decide to taunt it to prevent it from taunting us. After that, we swap into Duali or Cherim, who hits it with a Leech Seed to whittle down its health safely so it can't kill one of our Pokemon with a Metal Burst. After that, we set up a Sunny Day and slowly whittle its health down with Magical Leaf. Eventually, we're forced to swap out into Zetsu, who is joining us from Generation 3. With the Sun Boost, Zetsu is easily able to OHKO the Bastiodon with a Flamethrower, ending the fight and netting us the 6th Gym Badge. As soon as we leave the gym, we see that Barry is waiting for us, and he asks us to meet him at the library. But before we do that, we decide to go on a quick expedition to Iron Island to pick up a Shiny Stone for Nexo, so we can evolve it into a Roserade, since we currently don't have a very good Grass-type member for the squad. As we're running through the cave, we run into Worker Brendan. This man has a Geodude. This Geodude explodes. This explosion kills Civic. That is twice now that one of our Pokemon is taken out by a random ass trainer with a weak ass Pokemon. And then later in the cave, we get into a double battle with ace trainers Jonah and Brenda. Very quickly in the fight, Riley's Lucario is taken out, turning the 2v2 into a 2v1. This has suddenly gotten very, very dangerous. Eventually, we are forced to send out Valari to try to take out the opposing Staraptor. On the switch-in, Valari is hit with a critical hit Aerial Ace, followed by a critical hit high jump kick from a huge power Medicham. Within 10 minutes of one another, we have lost 2 crucial members of the party, one of them having been with us ever since Generation 2. That makes not 1, not 2, but 3 deaths from random trainers throughout the region. Not once have we ever lost a Pokemon to an actual boss fight, just very unfortunate circumstances and incredibly bad luck. All of this just for a single Shiny Stone for Nexo, who, spoiler alert, we don't even end up using. Ever. Iron Island was a complete and utter waste of time. We get out of the fight feeling incredibly down. We get back to Canalave and rebuild the team before we head over to the library to meet up with Barry. When we get there, we see that both Dawn and Rowan are also waiting for us. Rowan informs us that he's called the 3 of us here to ask for help in obtaining data on the lake trio. Just as it's decided who will be going to which lake, we hear an explosion. A second bomb from the Bowl-Cut boys, this time at Lake Valor, the lake we were just assigned to. We fly to Pastoria and get to Lake Valor as fast as possible. When we get there, we find nearly the entire lake has been drained from the explosion caused by the Bowl-Cut bomb. When we get to the center of the lake, we find that Saturn has already captured Azelf and sent it away. Even though it won't change anything, we still decide to fight him. After we beat him, he reveals that Mars is at Lake Verity trying to catch Mesprit, so that's where we head next. When we get there, we find that we're too late. Neither Dawn nor Rowan were able to defeat Mars, who has successfully captured or transferred Mesprit away. Once again, we decide to fight just for the hell of it. After we beat her, we learn that Uxie has also been successfully captured from Lake Acuity. After the Bowl-Cut boys leave the lake, Rowan calls an emergency meeting to talk about Barry's safety, since he's going up against actual, full-fledged terrorists by himself at the age of 10. Being the Pokemon prodigy that we are sent to go search for Barry and confirm his safety instead of alerting the authorities. The more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that Rowan should be jailed for child endangerment. But whatever. We rush through Mount Coronet and Route 217 and get to the Acuity lakefront just in time to find Barry rushing ahead into danger by himself instead of waiting. I would criticize him for that, but he is only 10 years old and it's very in character for him to do that. But before we're able to go assist him, we first need to get the 7th gym badge so we can use Rock Climb. Which means it's time to take on Candace. We lead the fight with Zetso, who gets instantly gripped by Candace's lead Sneasel, bringing it dangerously low. However, we're able to OHKO it with a flamethrower. When Candace sends out her Piloswine, we calc that we can OHKO the Piloswine, so we stay in and do exactly that. She then swaps into her Ace Frostlass, so we switch into Snag, our Houndoom. Snag eats a Shadow Ball in the swap, but is able to OHKO the Frostlass with a flamethrower on its turn. Candace only has her Abomasnow left, which is also OHKO'd by Snag thanks to it being quad weak to fire. Now that we can freely use Rock Climb, we can go chase after Barry. But when we get to Lake Acuity, we find Jupiter roasting the ever-living shit out of him. Then she tells us that the Bulk Up boys are doing this for the good of everyone before dipping back to their HQ. When we talk to Barry, it seems like getting his ass whooped over and over has really made him reconsider how he'd been doing this whole Pokemon trainer thing. On that pretty somber note, we fly to Veilstone. We head to the Bulk Up boys storage building where we meet up with Looker. He lets us into the building and then goes on ahead of us. We explore our way around the base until we eventually find Looker at a meeting room where Cyrus is giving a, frankly, pretty good speech to an army of Bulkuts. Once the speech is over, we part ways with Looker and head upstairs to Cyrus's office. When we get there, we find Cyrus, and he reveals to us that he's already finished using the Lake Trio and that we're free to free them, but only if we can beat him in a battle. We lead the fight with Raido the Magnezone, who hard counters Cyrus's Sneasel. The Sneasel lowers our defense to -4 with a couple of screeches, but we're able to take it out with 2 Magnet Bombs. He then swaps into his Crobat. Because of the -4 defense drop, we decide it's best to swap into Drock the Rhyperior, who instantly gets confused. Because of the confusion, Drock isn't able to land a single hit against the Crobat and is brought down to yellow health. Since the defense drop is gone, we swap back into Raido, who OHKOs the Crobat with a Thunderbolt. All Cyrus has left is his Honchkrow, who Raido also OHKOs with another Thunderbolt. After we beat him, Cyrus is kind enough to tell us exactly how to free the Lake Trio, and that he's heading off to Mount Coronet to start the last stage of the Bulk Up Boys' plan. Then he leaves us alone in his office. We run over to the room where the Lake Trio is being kept, only to find that Sharon and Saturn are both there. Saturn is still upset over the last time we beat him, and challenges us to a battle. His team hasn't changed since the last time though, so we beat him pretty quick. With Saturn out of the way, we're able to free the Lake Trio and chase down Cyrus at Mount Coronet. When we reach the top of the mountain and arrive at Spear Pillar, we find that Cyrus is about to finish his plans. We rush forward to try and stop him, but we're stopped by Mars and Jupiter. We're about to take them both on at once, but Barry appears to turn the fight into a 2v2. We lead the fight with Zetso and Barry's Munchlax against 2 Bronzors. We easily OHKO the first one with a flamethrower, while the other 2 Pokemon begin using status moves. When Jupiter sends out her Skuntank, we swap out to Drock, who hard counters it. Unfortunately, Drock is poisoned by a poison jab on the swap in. From here, the plan is to take out Jupiter's 2 remaining Pokemon to turn the fight into a 2v1, while the relatively weak Bronzor is taking Mars slot on the field. Unfortunately, that plan is foiled when Barry's Rapidash takes out the Bronzor with a Fire Blast, bringing out the Purugly. Luckily though, Kuma is able to take out the Skuntank, removing one of the aces from the field. Kuma also OHKOs the Golbat that follows, officially turning the fight into a 2v1. On the next turn, Barry is finally useful for once, with his Heracross OHKOing the opposing Purugly with a Brick Break, allowing Raido to kill the Golbat that follows. With the 2 admins defeated, we're just in time to listen to Cyrus's monologue. It's also the hypest moment of my childhood, so I don't mind reliving it. He successfully summons both Dialga and Palkia, but the Lake Trio come to try to stop them. Unfortunately, they're not powerful enough to stop both Dialga and Palkia, but Giratina is. It appears in a shadowy void before doing a jump scare and stealing Cyrus away into the Distortion World. The portal to the Distortion World is left behind and is growing bigger. To try to stop it, we drop into the portal along with Cynthia and the Lake Trio. Wait, Cynthia? When did she get here? I was too focused on Cyrus being kidnapped by Satan himself to be jump scared. Anyways, we make our way through the Distortion World with the help of the Lake Trio, pushing boulders into holes and defying physics along the way. Anyway, we make it to the end where we find Cyrus and are forced to fight him, even though Cynthia's standing right there, presumably with her Elite Four team, but whatever. It's up to us. We lead with Zetso against his lead Houndoom. We take a bit of damage from an incoming flamethrower, but OHKO it with a double kick. We suspect that the Gyarados is going to go for a waterfall against us, so we swap out into Kuma to eat it. However, the Gyarados instead uses Earthquake, but Kuma eats that pretty well. So when the Gyarados throws out a second Earthquake, I'm not too worried. Unfortunately, that Earthquake crits, bringing Kuma down to red health. We have to swap out here. We go into Casper the Duskmar, who is able to get a burn off on the Gyarados. Thanks to the attack drop, we're able to survive an incoming waterfall and bring Gyarados down to red health. When we go for a Shadow Sneak to finish it off, Cyrus opts to swap out of his Gyarados and into his Honchkrow, who eats the Shadow Sneak without issue. With Casper at such low health, we can't leave him in, so we swap out to Raido, who eats a Night Slash. But then the bird uses Heat Wave, bringing Raido all the way down to red health. Luckily though, a Thunderbolt is able to take the bird out. When Cyrus sends his Gyarados back out, we're left with a choice. Either we swap out and make sure Raido lives, or we risk it, leave Raido in, and hope that Cyrus goes to heal his Gyarados. We opt to leave Raido in, and it pays off whenever Cyrus uses a full restore in his Gyarados, letting us safely OHKO it with a Thunderbolt. Then he sends in his Ace Weavile, who, at this point, can take out nearly every member of the party with its high speed and attack stats. We can OHKO it with Zetso, but we'll need a clean swap to survive 2 hits from it. So, for the first time in this run, we'll have to sack someone off to win. And we decide to sack off Casper and swap into Zetso, where we can OHKO it with a Blaze Kick after taking an Ice Punch. Except, we miss. And then we miss again. But then finally, we hit it on the 3rd try, taking it out. All Cyrus has left is this Crobat. We swap into Druck, who hard counters it. Or at least, I thought so. An unfortunate mix of Toxic and Confuse Ray means that we're forced to swap out into Jumbo the Garchomp, who easily finishes the job with a Dragon Claw. After we beat Cyrus, he walks off into Distortion World. We walk up to the final platform, where we encounter Giratina and catch it with the Master Ball. After we catch it, Cyrus walks up behind us incredulous that we caught it, before walking away deeper into Distortion World. And I'm guessing he just stays there? We don't see him again after this, so I have to assume he never leaves. Good riddance, I say. The world doesn't need any more Edge. We go through the portal back into the real world and appear at Sendoff Spring. Cynthia tells us we need to go visit Rowan and let him know that we're alright. So we fly back to Sandgem Town to talk to Rowan and completely ignore letting our mom know that her only child is alive. And with that, the plot of the game is complete. All we have left is Volkner and the Elite Four. Now, this video is already getting pretty long, so let's just cut to the chase, shall we? Before that, we have something else. It's everyone's favorite part of the video. It's time for the self-shill! As you can see from this chat message here, and from the comments from the self-shill of the Emerald video here, the self-shill is the best part of my videos. Apparently. So we're doing another one. Now, in case you weren't aware, I name all of the Pokemon in my Nuzlocks after subscribers and Twitch followers. And I have a problem. I am running out of names. As you can see from these view counts, in my 6 months of posting YouTube videos, I have already both peaked and fallen off. So I am begging on my hands and knees, please subscribe or follow on Twitch. Or if you want to go above and beyond, share it. Or even just make your subscription list public so I have more names to use. Because at this rate, I'll have to start pulling names from the comment section. Ugh. Please save me from that cruel, cruel fate. We lead the fight with Jumbo, our Garchomp. Right before the fight began, we gave Jumbo Earthquake with the TM we picked up earlier. So, to absolutely no one's surprise, Jumbo OHKOs Volkner's entire team. Up next though, we have an actual fight with Barry right outside the E4. We lead with Zelenka against his lead Staraptor, who is hit by a couple aerial aces before taking it out with an Ice Fang. When he sends out his Heracross next, we predict that it will go for a Rock Slide, so we swap into Zetso, who tanks the hit and the close combat that follows, letting him OHKO the bug with a Fire Punch. Next up, he brings out his Ace Empoleon. We swap out into Raido, who outspeeds and OHKOs it with a Thunderbolt. When he brings out his Rapidash, we go out into Druck, who hard counters the horse. We OHKO the Rapidash with an Earthquake. He sends out his Roserade, seeing a kill with Giga Drain, but we stop that plan by swapping back into Raido, who eats the Giga Drain and brings the Roserade down to half health. At this point, Raido is too close to dying to risk keeping him in, so we swap out to Ristix the Alakazam to finish the job with the Psychic. All Barry has left is a Snorlax. We swap into Dayan the Gliscor and avoid the incoming Earthquake, giving us a free swap. The two wail on each other for a few turns, but we're eventually forced to swap out of Dayan, since we just don't want to risk losing him, as he's one of our Elite Four mons. So we swap back into Druck while the Snorlax seals to full with a rest. With our free 2 turns, we're able to finish off the Snorlax and finish the fight. All that's left now is the Elite Four and her. Before we head in though, here's the team we'll be bringing. Raido the Magnezone, Jumbo the Garchomp, Dayan the Gliscor, Koratus the Electivire, Linares the Weavile, and Kuma the Walrein, who is back for her second Elite Four appearance in the series. Aaron is up first. We lead with Raido against his Yanmega. During our prep, we saw that Yanmega had Double Team and came into the fight expecting to deal with evasion shenanigans. So when the Yanmega goes for a Double Team, we're able to perfectly counter with a Lock-On, ensuring that we're able to get off a Thunderbolt Oko. When the Heracross comes out, we swap into Diane, who eats the incoming close combat and counters with an Aerial Ace, taking it out. Aaron sends in his Ace Drapion, and we swap back into Raido, who eats the incoming Ice Fang we predicted. A few Thunderbolts later, and the Drapion is taken out. When he sends out his Scizor next, it suffers a similar fate. All he has left is a Vespiquen, which is easily OHKO'd by a super effective Thunderbolt. Bertha's next. We lead with Kuma against our lead Wishcash. If Kuma is able to take out the Wishcash without using her Chesto Berry, we should be able to heal to full against the next Mon in Sweet Bertha. Unfortunately, we are forced to throw that entire plan out when an Earth Power lowers Kuma's special defense. Kuma gets Wishcash low enough that we're able to know Bertha will use a full restore, so we use the opportunity to heal Kuma with Rest and then swap into Diane. We instantly use U-turn, swapping back into Kuma basically for free. A few body slams later and Kuma is able to take out the Wishcash. Bertha sends in her Golem, who Kuma outspeeds and OHKOs with a Surf. Her Ace Rhyperior comes out next and is also taken out by a Surf. However, her Gliscor outspeeds us and can potentially take us out with an Earthquake or Thunderfang. So we swap into Diane, dodge the incoming Earthquake, and immediately swap into Linares, who eats an Ice Fang. On our turn, we OHKO the Gliscor with an Ice Punch, leaving Bertha with only her Hippowdon left. Now, Linares is a very frail glass cannon, and we can't OHKO the Hippowdon with any of our moves. So we swap back into Diane, eat an incoming Stone Edge, and start chipping away with Aerial Ace. The Hippo does outdamage us though, and we're forced to swap or risk losing Diane to a crit. So we swap into Jumbo and bring the Hippowdon down to red health with an Earthquake. We know that Bertha is going to use her second full restore here, so we take the opportunity to swap into Diane. At this point, the Hippowdon has run out of Stone Edges and is going to start using Yawn on Diane to buy some time to chip away with Crunch. We click U-turn to get the chip damage of our own in and swap into Jumbo, who takes the Yawn. Now that a non-flying type is on the field, the AI wants to start using Earthquake, so we swap back into Diane and dodge the Earthquake. The AI is now back in the same position it was 2 turns ago, so we know that it will go for another Yawn. So what do? We U-turn into Jumbo, he eats the Yawn. Then we swap back into Diane, dodging the incoming Earthquake, and U-turn back into Jumbo. Now, the Hippowdon is low enough that Jumbo can safely kill with an EQ, winning us the fight. Bertha was surprisingly difficult. The next fight will not be. Lucian is up next, and was the member of the E4 that we were most worried about during prep. We lead with Linares, and thanks to her high attack and speed stats, she's able to OHKO Lucian's lead Mr. Mime. Lucian instantly brings out his Ace Glade, and we swap into Diane, dodging the incoming Stone Edge. Diane eats the incoming Leaf Blade, and then OHKOs the Glade with an Aerial Ace. Then the Espeon comes out. We calculate that the Espeon is going to use Psychic against Diane, so we get a free swap back into Linares, who OHKOs with another Night Slash. When Lucian sends out his Bronzong, we pivot into Jumbo while it sets up with Calm Mind. Jumbo is then able to 2-shot the Bronzong with Fire Fang, leaving only Alakazam left. Just like with Espeon, we predict that it will use Psychic, so we pivot into Linares and OHKO with Night Slash, ending the fight. And that's it. With the Elite Four gone, only one challenge remains. The trainer I have been dreading and fearing facing throughout the entirety of this series, Cynthia. We lead with Raido against Cynthia's lead Spiritomb and are able to take it out with 2 Thunderbolts, taking minimal damage ourselves. Cynthia wastes absolutely no time after this and instantly goes into her infamous Ace Garchomp. From here, we do a couple pivots. We swap into Diane, avoiding an Earthquake. Diane eats a Dragon Rush on the next turn, bringing it down to half health and using its Citrus Berry. In return, we U-turn, bringing out Kuma, our secret weapon against the Garchomp. Kuma can eat any attack this Garchomp can throw at it, even if it crits, and then afterwards an Ice Beam will be a guaranteed OHKO. So we click Ice Beam to take out the biggest threat on Cynthia's team. Except, Cynthia swaps out the Garchomp and makes her Togekiss tank the Ice Beam instead. At this point, our entire plan falls apart. We had concocted a turn-by-turn plan to win this fight, and now it's all out the window. From here on out, it's all improv. We suspect that the Togekiss is now going to try to use Aura Sphere on Kuma, which we can't have happen. Kuma has to be at full HP to guarantee we can take out the Garchomp later. So we swap into Karatas, who eats the Aura Sphere. Then we outspeed and take it out with a Thunder Punch on our turn. Cynthia brings her Garchomp back out, letting us swap back out to Dian for free when she goes for an Earthquake. We know that Garchomp is going to go for another Dragon Rush against us. A crit will kill Dian. Whether it be through U-turn or death, we will get a free swap out into Kuma, and she will take down the Garchomp. Luckily, Garchomp misses the Dragon Rush entirely, letting us U-turn into Kuma without taking any damage at all. But once again, when she sees Kuma, she swaps out her Garchomp and sends in Lucario instead. We can't risk Kuma taking even a single point of damage, so we swap out into Jumbo, who eats a Stone Edge. As expected of Jumbo, she OHKOs Lucario with an EQ on her turn. And then it's a face-off between Garchomps. Cynthia is desperate to let her Garchomp sweep us, but we won't allow that. Even though her Garchomp is low enough to take it out with an Earthquake, it outspeeds us and can take out Jumbo with a Dragon Rush before she would even have a chance. We need to find a path to bring Kuma back out. We swap into Rhida, who is able to eat the incoming Dragon Rush thanks to its high defense stats and Steel typing. Then once again we pivot into Dian, dodging the incoming Earthquake. But this time, there's no dodging the Dragon Rush. But thankfully, we dodged the crit, letting us U-turn into Kuma for the third time now. And finally, Cynthia has nowhere to run anymore. Kuma is able to dodge the incoming Dragon Rush and take out the Garchomp with an Ice Beam, beating the Garchomp still at full health. However, Cynthia sends out her Roserade, which is a huge threat to Kuma, so we swap out into the Linares, who just barely survives a critical hit Energy Ball. But on our turn, we retaliate with an Ice Punch that OHKOs. Cynthia is down to her last Pokemon, Milotic. Linares is on the brink of death, so we have no choice but to bring in someone else. So we swap out, and history repeats itself. Kuma is once again staring down a champion's Milotic. We exchange Dragon Pulses and Body Slams back and forth, with Kuma doing slightly more damage than she's taking. When the Milotic is down to half health, we swap out to Karatas, since we want to take out the Milotic in one hit from here. If we don't, Cynthia will use a full restore on it. Karatas takes the Dragon Pulse on the way in, and finishes the job with a Thunder Punch. As the Milotic disappears and the victory music plays, a wave of relief washes over me. Cynthia is a fight that I have been thinking about ever since I started this journey months ago. And now it's over. And I don't know if you were keeping count, but we did it deathless, the entire Elite Four. For the first time ever, we lost no one. And we beat the game in a single run. Maybe I really am getting better at this whole Nuzlocke thing. Or maybe the Elite Four in this game is kind of just dog water. I think Sinnoh needs a new Elite Four. Yeah, that'll work. A brand new Elite Four that's made up of Psychic Elijah, Cyclist Megan, Ace Trainer Jonah, Ace Trainer Brenda, and Cyrus as the champion. Those were the real hardest fights of this run. Yeah, that could work. An Elite Four like that would really prepare us for Emerald Kaizo, which we are now one game closer to, and I still feel entirely unprepared. But the only thing we can do is keep going, and go we will. Thanks for watching.